So good afternoon, everybody. It's a great pleasure that you are watching this video. It's a great pleasure of myself. I'm Jenny Campbell. With me is Alison Kane, who's Programme Director, and Andrew Blair, who's a graduate, all of the Resilience Accreditation Programme. We are delighted that you're watching this video. It means that you are keen to find out about the programme, and we hope that we cover all the questions that you may have and more insight into how the programme works, what you get, and why resilience in the first place. We are recording this without participants today. We did a session live a couple of days ago and we had a technical glitch, so the recording didn't work, and so we are doing it again for you. So we expect that that means it will be shorter, but it does mean also that we can cover all of the questions that were asked by participants live the other day, so look out for that. So without further ado, let me just explain who is in front of you. So maybe you want to say hello, Alison, and actually you just introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello everybody. Really good to be here and glad that you're watching this. I'm the Programme Director for the Resilience Engine. I've been working with the Resilience Engine for the last few years. I'm also a graduate of the programme, and that's actually why I joined the company, because I was really taken with and really enjoyed the programme, and it's become an embedded part of my practice. So that's my perspective, but you've got a real graduate here today who's going to tell you it from the horse's mouth from much more recently, and that's Andrew. So I'll hand you over so he can introduce himself.
Thanks. Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name's Andrew Blair. I'm an HR professional working in the aviation industry, working as a change manager, team coach, and now a freshly graduated resilience expert.
And we'll be hearing from Andrew later the sort of real story of what it was like within the accreditation programme itself. So it's my great pleasure to host this today. I'm the lead researcher within the organisation, and we've been researching resilience since 2007. It's very long standing, and we place our research into the safe hands of others in order to get it out there. It's so impactful, it's so useful. We've created the accreditation programme in order to put it into the hands of coaches, HR, OD, organisational development, and in fact other people. So we have in our community of practice, we have head teachers, we have social workers, etc. If you are using a coaching style in your management, this is of interest to you. So we'll go through why, and you know, this is our agenda for this video. So obviously we've introduced ourselves. We'll talk a little bit about why resilience and what it means. Alison is going to take you through the programme itself. Andrew will give you the real story, and then we'll go through Q&A. So first of all, I think it's really interesting, you know, we're coming in at the end of 2020 and we've seen such a turmoil in our whole world. And when you think about resilience, many people will get into the definitions of resilience around coping, especially this year. But it's broader than that, and it's more strategic than that. So we just want to sort of pose some questions to you about your clients, about your client practice, about what you're seeing. If you're working with individuals, if you're working with teams, if you're doing leadership programs, you might be doing, you know, multiple groups. If you're an internal practitioner, are you working with staff groups? Are these the kind of things you might see? Are you witnessing people feeling stuck, fearful, unable to know what to do in the face of uncertainty? Are you facing overwhelm? Are your clients facing overwhelm because of complexity? Do you notice that teams are falling to mediocrity in terms of their own productivity and effectiveness? And that can be quite a pattern thing. Do you know about stress? I mean, stress has been really talked about this year. Do you understand it? Do you know what it is? Do you know how to deal with it? Do you know when it would show in your client practice? What about, and we've all faced this as coaches, when we are working really hard, but we don't see the results on the client end. There's no behavioral change. Do you know what's going on? Right. And then specifically about your own resilience. And as we've gone through this, I'm wondering, which of these are you noticing most in your client base? And just have a think while you're looking at those questions. Which of these are showing most? Which of these are showing up more this year as a result of the pandemic, of the complexity of our world? And these are the kind of responses that we heard the other day from participants. Clients not able to see a way through, you know, lots of fear, ineffectiveness, psychological safety, being able to have voice, knowing when it's okay, authenticity, stuckness, fear, really a lot of fear around procrastination, boredom, you know, what do I do? Looking for the future, you know, where am I? What do I want? It has placed the lens very clearly on purpose, meaning, you know, managing themselves, you know, still number one. Okay. And we think overall that sort of stuckness and fatigue is very, very dominant. And all of these things are related to resilience. They are all signs of resilience being under great demand, okay, and potentially not matching that demand sufficiently. Yeah, stress shows up when there's actually a real stretch on resilience and you can't meet that demand. Now, interestingly, therefore, when we talk about resilience, we're talking about obviously where there is a lower level of resilience, but we also talk, and it's completely clear from the research, that we're talking about the higher ends of resilience as well. Okay, so a leadership team, an exec team having to think forward proactively. Do they understand, you know, have they got the resourcefulness to actually lean into the future in the middle of a VUCA, you know, that volatility, uncertain, complex world? Okay, so we thought it would be interesting for you to see, what does a resilience coach actually, you know, do? One, they work systemically. So that's systemically in terms of, you know, it's a systemic thing, resilience. It's a systemic capability. It's everything. People talk about it as the golden thread. So your home and your work life. And we've really seen that blur this year. Also you to your team, to the system that you're operating with. Context matters a lot in resilience. It can be really high resilience in one area and not in another. Okay, and then all these kind of the resilience drivers for your own client, they can differ how they show up. There are common ways of describing that, but actually they, you know, how they show up in your client and what is meaningful for your client. So a resilience coach will really work in all of that. Secondly, they'll really pace that coaching according to the resilience of the client. So, you know, they're not going to go for goals where the capacity of the client is not there. It's really interesting. It's non-linear work. It is, you start, you know, where the client is. You really, really understand how to find out where they are, how to help them understand where they are, you know, and pace the work according to that. Within the program, you'll be expected to work with both individuals and with groups or teams. You may be an individually oriented coach coming into this, and we can help you with that, groups and teams, but we're placing that resilience research into your hands so you can use it at any point with anybody. And it's so interesting, the pathways that people take as a result of the program. So we are asking you to work with groups and teams, and a resilience coach will. And they're enabling resilience within the members, but also in the spaces between those members, those team members, that leverage that you get with teamwork. And the last is they really pay attention to their own resilience. This is a core part of the programme and learning what impact you have. So we've kind of talked a lot about what the issues are that clients are facing, what a resilience coach actually does, what is resilience in the first place, and what are we basing the programme on. That's the Resilience Engine research. This is one of the core models. We call it the resilience dynamic because it goes up and down, your resilience. And it's a kind of map of resilience, if you like. We use it extensively to spot resilience levels, to help your client understand their resilience levels, whether that's an individual or a team. And then we dovetail that into the second model, the resilience engine, which explains how to build resilience. Okay, so, you know, these two are the core bits of research that we place into your hands through the licensing. What is it? Resilience is your capacity for change. It's your adaptability. The measure of your resilience is the measure of your capacity right now for change. So it's right at the heart of business change. It underpins all, effectiveness or productivity. It includes well-being entirely. You can't actually be at the highest levels of resilience without taking care of yourself. It's dynamic. It's, goes up and down. The good news is it's learnable, hoorah, systemic as described, and we understand quite a lot about the enablers and the barriers. So all of that goes into the programme, that mix. So that's enough from me. And I'm going to hand over to Alison, who's going to take you through the detail of the programme itself. So over to you, Alison.
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. So the programme, the first thing I'd like to say about the programme really is, having experienced it myself and now also delivering it, it's a very practical programme. It's a programme where we get to share learning and collaborate together and really reflect on how we can apply it to our practice as coaches, or indeed other types of practitioners that Jenny's referred to, who the programme is suitable for. So that's a really important piece, I think, to understand that. There is a lot of really useful content in here, but we get to really use it and practice with it and share our learning together as we go through the programme. So the programme itself runs over a period of 8 months. So for example, for this 2021 programme coming up, it will start in the beginning of February or early February and complete with the final submission at the end of August. So that's the time period that the programme runs over. There are 5 main virtual modules that we deliver live. So we've got the first 2 modules here are introducing what is resilience. So really exploring and digging into what is resilience, and also understanding and reflecting on different perspectives on resilience. So what different views might be on resilience, and therefore how that impacts on how we bring our work to our clients or into our organizations. It also introduces the resilience dynamic model, which Jenny's referred to already. And we start to look at, so it's an introduction in these first 2 modules, starting to look at how we might diagnose different levels of resilience and what that might mean for individuals and the organizations that we're working in. And we also, in these first 2 modules, explore the relationship between resilience, stress and well-being. So what's going on there, and that feeds into the diagnostic piece as well. So what we're noticing about stress and well-being and how that relates to the diagnosis that we might be making. These 2 modules are also available as a standalone workshop. So that's really designed for that standalone workshop for people in organizations who want to dip their toe in the water, begin to get an understanding more about what resilience is and how it's playing out in their organizations. So it gives you that beginning of that understanding and what might enable it. And then the further modules are designed for people who really want to go and dig into the depth of that, what that means, how they can use that in their practice, more about the enablers and the barriers that Jenny's referred to, and all those additional pieces. There's lots of work wrapped, or content, further content wrapped around these virtual modules. So there are videos, case studies. We have a Slack channel where discussion boards, where as faculty we partake in conversations, and people from the program can also have their own individual group conversations, and all sorts of activities going on in there. So there's lots of things that are wrapped around this, and I'll talk more about that in a minute when we talk about some of the other pieces of the module. So you'll see this bit here called additional components, so I'll come on to that in a bit. The middle module is all about making sure the program participants are really clear about what they need to do in order to become an accredited practitioner. So what is it that you need to know? What is it you need to demonstrate in terms of your practice and your reflections? And we take you through that so that you can be supported through that as you go through the program, so that you can have the best chance of being as successful as you can be in terms of that accreditation submission at the end of the program. The final 2 modules are all around how to build resilience. So that's where we bring in the other resilience model that Jenny referred to earlier, the resilience engine. And it's about understanding all the components that make up our resilience. So we've all got our own versions of a resilience engine, but for every individual, they're put together in a slightly different way. And we might have, different areas where we need to focus in order to sustain or enhance our resilience. So it's about how we can use that model for ourselves as coaches, but also with our clients and in our organizations to identify where the resilience gaps are. And it's also where we integrate the 2 models together. So how do we bring the resilience dynamic alongside the resilience engine to really explore how to work safely and well with people in terms of looking at and exploring their resilience. And in the final module, we then go on to look at digging more to specific resilience tools. So we look at what we're already using. So we'll all already be using things that are applicable to enabling resilience. So what have we already got in our toolkits, and also what else can we bring to bear? Those 2 models that we've already talked about, and some other tools that we can really look at using to enable resilience. So we look at a lot of the resilience enablers and barriers as well that was talked about earlier. So if we go on now, Jenny, thank you. So the additional components. So as I've already mentioned, there's lots of extra activity wrapped around those modules, including lots of sort of co-coaching and working together and collaboration that I referred to earlier on in terms of shared learning. The things that you need to also do are you need to do a minimum of 4 hours one-to-one client work specifically in relation to resilience coaching as to form part of the case studies that then inform your submission for your accredited practitioner status. And there's a minimum of 3 hours engagement required with either group or team client work. And as Jenny's mentioned, we can support you with this, and we have found in past programs where people have come on who haven't actually got either access to this or an experience in this, so we can buddy up, and there's all sorts of different ways of approaching these. But these are the form the basis of the case studies that for reflection that then feed into your final assignment. There's also supervision. So there are 2 hours of one-to-one supervision. So with one of the faculty, you get supervision on both your own resilience and your client work with resilience to support you with that. And 3 90-minute sessions of group supervision where we come together and look at case studies. So to really dig into how we are applying those models of the resilience dynamic, the resilience engine, and how are we working with groups and teams. So really getting into the guts of exploring all of that. And as I've already mentioned, we have Slack conversations, and you also get to join our community of practice, which is a really powerful thing. So our community of practice is all our accredited practitioners are invited to join that. And we have regular meetings and CPD events where people can drop in and have discussions and share learning and connect together. So that's a really powerful piece. And once you started going through the program, you're invited to join that and become part of those conversations. At the end of the program, you're required to submit the submission for assessment, which consists of a 600 to 1,000 word positioning statement, which is around really reflecting on and describing, explaining how resilience will fit or does fit into your practice. So how it integrates into what you do, so that you're very clear about what the context is that you're operating within, who your clients are, and what you're offering in terms of the resilience work. And then the learning essay assignment is the reflective assignment based on your own resilience journey and also the case studies from your one-to-one and group or team client work. And then the supporting evidence will be, testimonials to show that you've done the work. So that's a sort of appendix to the piece of work. So that's the overall program. I think the next slide just says, so what do you actually get from that? So I think the main thing for me coming out of the program was really that confidence to practice in a safer and holistic way with people. So it's really having that confidence to know where to start the work with people, maybe understanding some of the stuckness that Jenny referred to earlier in terms of why somebody might be stuck or what's causing them to be stuck, and therefore how you might choose to work with them, which might be very different from somebody else who might be presenting with the same level of resilience, but there's something else going on in terms of their context that means that you choose to work them in a different way. So, you know, when I talk about the depth of the work, it's really through the program, understanding a lot of that nuances. It's not just, oh, this person's here and therefore we work with them like this. You know, it's this person's here and this is their context and this is their past experience in terms of resilience, and that therefore we will, you know, we would start working with them in this way. So there's a depth to this confidence of really knowing how to diagnose and therefore how to offer interventions to our clients in the best possible way. The program is now accredited ICF-CCEU hours, so 60 hours, and overall 80 hours of CPD. So that's a really great contributor if you are looking for your next credential level or indeed reaccreditation at a particular credential level. From the program, you are part of it is you get a license. So you get a license to practice as an apprentice through the program itself. And then once you're accredited, you get a 3-year renewable license to use the resilience engine research models in your work. So that's the materials and the approaches and the know-how in your work. To achieve that, you are part of the community of practice. So our CPD events, and there's sort of some simple requirements around that to be reaccredited every 3 years. We started the community of practice a couple of years ago because what we wanted to build was something that was really alive for everybody, something that people could participate in. So not just oh, I've got to the end of my 3 years, I better do that now and shove that in. It was let's be part of a shared learning community where we actually are continuing to learn and come together. And share with CPD and other events, and therefore we can then at the end of the 3 years we've done all that, and it's just a case of making sure that we've done all that and then moving your license forward into the next period. And I think I've already mentioned, you know, one of the real benefits of joining this program and going through this program is becoming part of a vibrant learning community. Where we share best practice. So that's our community of practice, which all accredited practitioners are invited to join. So I think that sort of summarizes everything. Jenny, is there anything else that we should say?
I think there's a thing about that very first line and the difference it makes. I think that confidence to practice no matter what the level of resilience is. Right? I think that's really important. So lows, the middles and the highs, I think that's one thing. And then the other thing is when we use the word stuckness, people can genuinely be stuck, like they will not be taking action or there's massive procrastination, but there's other stucknesses. So for example, patterns of behavior. So typically high talent, you know, are in bounce back level. So they actually are kind of with a strong patterns and underlying beliefs about what good looks like and what they ought to be doing. And interestingly, that's not the highest level of resilience that's attainable for them. So, you know, when we use the word stuckness, we don't just mean that they're unable to act, actually get high performance in the middle of this, and they're still stuck in certain patterns. So it's quite interesting to sort of unpick all of that. So I think that rigor, that confidence, that depth, and you know, many experienced practitioners who've come into the program actually come out saying their choices are so much more informed over what they're offering to their clients, and therefore they're so much more impactful, you know, so for the clients. So that's the only thing I would say. Yeah, and hopefully that's given you a really good view, you know, of what the program is all about. I think the other thing to say is, you know, it's that 8 month, it's a very collaborative program. You are absolutely, you get into groups, you get into pairs, you know, we are working in multiple ways with one another as a community as we go through the program itself. So although we're all working virtually, you know, there's tons that we do in groups and together. So so that's a really nice part of the program. So, and we thought we would be really, we're really thrilled to have Andrew here, who's been going through the 2020 and successfully passed, now part of the community of accredited practitioners. So over to you, Andrew. Tell us what it was like.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jenny. Yeah, no, well, in short, I did the program in 2020 and loved it, and that's why I'm here to sort of, to communicate exactly that. But in all seriousness, in a little bit more depth as to why I started and what I learned and some of the benefits and so on. So back in, as I mentioned earlier, I'm working in the aviation industry. Back in 2018, we started noticing that these VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity, these cycles, they were real. It was really happening, and that the cycles were getting quicker and quicker, and they were having quite a deal of impact on our employees, on our teams, and so on our people. And we thought, we need to do something there. What is this actually? What is the issue? And we thought, it seems like it's a resilience issue, but we actually, to be honest, we weren't really sure what resilience really meant and what it is. And that was why I signed up for the program. And that before COVID, Corona, and the big challenges that we have today. So I feel a little bit ahead of the curve and grateful that I signed up when I did. But these VUCA issues really, the impact that they were having was sort of led us into to have a closer look at resilience. And one of the big things I learned in the course was really actually discovering, and if you ask this question in a meeting or at a dinner party, you'll get greeted with silence. When you really ask this question, what is resilience? It's everybody looks at the ground, they're not really too sure what it actually means. So this was, it sounds quite simple, but that was actually learning what resilience is, learning that a version of resilience that I can communicate and explain what it is. Also, oddly enough, learning what it isn't, and this sort of old-fashioned mentality of harden up, toughen up, and carry on was perhaps my previous version of resilience, but now having graduated the program, it's definitely changed from that. So on top of all that, knowing what resilience is, and then taking that one step further, being able to actually implement a coaching or resilience program in an organization, and you start to learn things like, do I really need to call it resilience? Do I need to mention the word? Is that always clever? Yes, no, maybe not. It can lead to inside the organization, look, we're going to send you to a resilience coaching or a training, then people suddenly start thinking they have something wrong with them, and this is not what we want to achieve. And that's, so, very often I learned how to, implement a resilience program within my own organization. Yeah, some of the other things I found quite interesting was that was really, it sounds quite strange, but in coaching, I had, using this resilience lens, I had the feeling that I was focusing back on people again, which is actually quite refreshing and rewarding, and saying, okay, that's what coaching, it's what it's really all about, focusing on people. And the resilience work and the resilience lens certainly increase that. A focus on good old-fashioned basics, purpose, meaningful work, and so on, enablers, barriers. Nothing too tricky about a lot of this type of stuff, but getting it right and really exploring it in a much more detail and depth has been very beneficial. What else? Yeah, my experience in the course itself, I think we've heard already that it's quite collaborative, and I can really confirm that it was very collaborative. A highlight for me was peer supervision, collegial supervision, and then also supervision from the faculty, group work, and so on. All those things were there. And also the challenge that Corona gave us this year was actually taking this from what we, all the people my age or older prefer and like, this classic live in a classroom. We went from that to moving to online inside the program this year, which is also quite helpful because, basically that's what I had to do with my own coaching work anyway in the program. So which was a big change. And that was also nice to experience that inside the program. Community of practice, the community of practice is fantastic. It just, you know, reinvents my motivation on a regular basis, keeps me thinking, keeps me sharp, and provides a lot of input. So you know, I'm very grateful to be in that, and really enjoy that it's ongoing. You know, I don't have the feeling that I signed up for a short program. I signed up for a short program which was 8 months, which is not that short anyway, and it's just going on and on and on. And I feel that that's you know, quite helpful as we try to navigate these difficult times that we have before us. And perhaps, you know, my big learning or my big takeaway, I always say this with a, you know, like to amuse myself to a certain extent, but being a change manager in the past, I thought I was actually quite a good change manager. Now I've done the resilience program. Maybe I can't really say if I'm a good resilience coach or not, but I think the program has changed me into being a very good change manager. Yeah, and I look back and with horror actually, and think of some of the ways that we've done stakeholder analysis and on too much focus on the change curve and not really looking at where people are at and what they need and what their level of resilience is, and does it make sense due to their resilience level to actually do something now or not, or what can we do to increase that? All these things have really strengthened my change management tool set, which I'm grateful for. So I can say, you know, I did the course, I enjoyed it, it's been beneficial for me, it's been beneficial for my organization. One of my colleagues is coming to do the next program next year, so that's probably the, to give you a bit of a feeling as to what I really think about the course, you know, and I can only encourage anyone out there thinking about it, hey, you know, resilience is the in word at the moment, there's a reason for that, it's important, we need it, and we need more people that can help and coach for resilience. So, you know, don't hesitate.
And we love that. Don't hesitate, come in, check it out. You know, if you've got questions, obviously, we'll throw up Mandy's details for you to contact. And I think what, you know, I'm hearing, Andrew, from what you said is one of the things you've said before is we can get very clever about managing change. And actually, this has brought the people bit, and it's really about people. It's brought the people bit really to the center of your thinking, and I think that's, you know, and you also said you know, a lot of this stuff is quite straightforward. It's more the thinking of, for what purpose are you offering this versus that, or, you know, how must I be to enable somebody to feel or think differently or act differently. So it's not hard, but it's the clarity and that rigor, you know. So yeah, I mean, thank you so much, and I know that you're going to be sort of thinking about some of the questions as well. I'm going to go back into this, and you know, I just thought it was nicer that you all saw Andrew talking, and you know, our faces a bit more, and we've had lots of questions, so tons here. Okay, and if you're holding questions, hopefully this will be resonant for you. You know, let's take them just, I think, probably one by one. We have the time to do that. How suitable is this program for somebody who's working entirely as individual coaching? You know, what's the implications of group and teamwork? Alison, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure, Jenny. Yeah. So we have many people come through the program who come from the perspective of working entirely as an individual coach. There is a requirement, as you've seen from the program that I explained earlier, that you do some work with either a group or a team. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a team as such, and probably many of you understand the different definitions between a group and a team. So it can be a group workshop, or it could be full-blown team coaching. So what we don't do in the program is teach you to be a team coach, but we do put the tools in your hands and support you to do work with either a group or a team, whatever is most appropriate for you as a practitioner. We've had people on the program in the past who have buddied up with other people, for example. So somebody who might be doing work with a team or a group, and they've buddied up with them to co-facilitate, which actually can be a nice thing to do from both perspectives, whether you're the person who's used to working with a team or not. Yeah, so it's not an issue you know, so it may be a new challenge for you, but we've had people in the past who've done it and then they've gone, oh well, actually I really like this, I really enjoy this, you know, I really love this group work, or this, you know, bringing it into a team is fabulous. And so it actually can be a really nice introduction to that piece of work as well.
And I mean, again, I would just echo that. We've had people who've come in saying, you know, I only do individual coaching. And after the program, they've found that because they've got resilience attached to their name, the requirement or the ask of them as a coach, as a facilitator, etc., has become a lot around groups. And that ability to be able to hold a group safely is part of the training of the program. There are different ethical challenges, if you like, within that. So we do require you to work in that. And as Alison says, we support you. Practical question, I think you'll have this in the email that you'll get, module dates and pricing. So the pricing is 2,950 for the 2021, and module dates, I think we start on the 2nd of February. Yeah. 2nd of February. So each of the modules is a half day. So we're 2nd, 9th in February. There's one at the back end of February, which is module 3, and then 4 and 5 at the back end of March. So you know, it's relatively short. Get you really thinking about it. You can start to practice after module 2 already. A lot of people wait until after module 5 before they kind of get into the client work, etc. And then there's lots and lots of supervision, okay, and lots of discussion. So yeah, you do need to find your own practice clients, okay, and it's up to you about whether you charge or not. That's not something that we dictate anything around. We do ask you, obviously, from an ethical point of view, to see that you're kind of in training if you're using it, but actually you can be using it with current clients. You can go out and do work in for, you know, third sector or whatever, as pro bono. You can take this completely as part of your normal coaching practice and continuing to charge. That's really very much up to you. Can we speak a bit more about the virtual experience? We've probably done quite a lot on that. Andrew, you may want to come in on this. Alison, you may want to support.
Yeah, I mean, I think the you know, well, we were forced to go virtual, and it was, from my experience, definitely not negative. You know, it was quite intense. I felt quite closer to the information and people very often. I think most of us have been in, you know, typical online environment, and it was exactly that. And I think that, you know, it strengthened the network feeling, it strengthened the community feeling, and yeah, was very comfortable.
Lovely.
Yeah, so the program was the first time this year that we actually moved over to virtual for the second half of the program. So we were all set up to run it live for the whole year, as we would normally have done. And obviously, like many people, we were forced to consider what to do and switch to virtual. And Jenny and I were both absolutely tickled pink, actually, that how it worked. You know, we kept saying, "God, we've got even better engagement than normal. This is fabulous. This is wonderful." You know, and sort of trying to unpick a bit what that was about. So our experience has been really, really positive. And obviously some of the advantages of virtual is that people can come from all over the world without having to get on an airplane and pay lots of money and stay in a hotel as well. So, you know, there's those pragmatic considerations too. But in terms of the actual experience for us as facilitators and participants, you know, we believe it was very successful.
And I would say on top of that, the original program, whether it's live, you know, some of those modules are delivered live or not, it was always a lot of this is virtual anyway. Right, so you know, the program of 80 hours is a tremendous amount that is actually offline, if you like. So you're watching a video and you're working with your colleagues on Slack. You know, it's asynchronous. You're not necessarily on all the time together at the same time. So you know, there's a lot of this that sort of fits in and around. And the reason for that, the way that we've designed the program, is you don't get resilience by going in and doing a workshop all in one day. you know, you keep coming back to the same things again and again and again. You get it from different lenses, from different ideas, from different clients, etc. And it actually grows, you know, so that it informs so much of your thinking by the end of the program, rather than, yeah, tick, I've got that knowledge now. Okay, so we would expect it to become part of your, to use an AoEC term, your signature presence. Some examples of scenarios that you've worked with. You know, I think I've got so many I could go on, so let me throw it out to either of you. Andrew, it'd be interesting to know, within, as an internal practitioner, sort of this, you know, one or two stories that you've got.
I mean, I think for me, one of the biggest things, you know, I mean, you hear me tonight talking all the time about this VUCA world, and you know, it is so complicated that you know, individuals are having trouble solving it, and I think it's quite interesting exploring resilience at a team level. You know, and there are so many teams out there that are struggling with current situations, and you know, having a look at individual resilience inside those teams, and then also the team resilience levels, is where I've had you know, the most experience. And I think that you know, very often it's just been you know, taking the time to explore resilience with them, where they just didn't have that, they didn't take that time, and that was a little bit of that you know, slow down to hurry up.
Yeah, and you know, we definitely echo that. You know, and that will be a surprise for many of you who are experienced practitioners in the first place, is reflection and learning. Absolutely, you know, while that might be slightly slower, it actually speeds up, and your effectiveness is really great. So earlier I talked about bounce back people. So if you work with bounce back people who, you know, kind of almost create the conditions for an adrenaline ride within the organization, if they're a leader, they can create a wake after them of chaos. You know, and actually that's really interesting to work with. So to help them see it, to help them notice that there's a different way, and that way is potentially even more effective, and can be speedier but steadier. That's interesting. Yeah. Alison, any kind of other examples you might throw out?
Because Andrew's talked to the team thing, so I could maybe say just something about an individual. So working with just an individual leader who was, you know, normally used to being in bounce back and performing at high level, and then promoted into a new position, a loss of confidence and clarity around that, and you know, a step up in the terms of deciding how to be a leader, and what that meant for them and the people who work for them. And you know, bringing the resilience lens to bear there was really useful for that leader to understand what was actually going on. One, where they were with their own resilience, because their resilience had dropped big time. So this is why they'd come to me, and because they, you know, obviously noticed that shift, and wanted some support with that, but didn't really quite understand why or what was going on with that. And it was about helping them to explore that and understand, therefore, what was the most useful thing for them to then build back up to you know, to where they were before, and understand that there was actually a better place to go beyond that one day when they were ready, or to, you know, to begin to work on that. So yeah, I think that's really interesting. You know, the idea that people who are performing well actually can also have significant resilience needs. And how we can work with those people to help them explore those and actually get to a much better place than they were before they might have even come down from the bounce back to a lower place of resilience, to get somewhere beyond that in terms of their awareness of their own resilience and the impact, as I think Jenny and Andrew are both referring to, on the people working for them and with them, and the organisations that they're working in. I think that's one example.
And then the only other examples that I might give are, you know, particularly I'm thinking about the pandemic, and if we go into 2021, you know, the clients, for anyone who's watching, you know, where your clients are, we do work, and we expect, you know, that your learning will be also associated with those who really find themselves in difficulty. Okay, obviously there's lines with therapeutic and you make your own decisions around that, but we guide you. And in fact, part of the faculty team, Anne Archer, who's unable to join us today, but will be delivering next year into the 2021 programme, is a mental health expert. So, you know, we absolutely get into that. Okay, so, and instead of being shy of it, and any person can actually have a resilience drop, as Alison was saying, is actually being confident and being clear and still enabling the client to take responsibility for it. That's a critical part of resilience, and it's in you can learn to have confidence in how to do that with people whose resilience is really really shaky. At the other end of things, you know, I tend to work at the executive level, and you know, the system's resilience has been under threat this year, and so you've got organizations whose resilience is lower, and actually the controlling aspects of that come out, and leaders get tremendously under pressure from that. So navigating that alongside with your clients, you know, is really critically sort of strategic work, and actually helping them understand the ask and for what purpose and where is that coming from. So you know, tuning the client's lens around their systems and why they're operating in the way that they are is incredibly helpful for people, because they can address the source of the issue rather than actually just kind of responding to the, you know, if there's control freakery around the place. So that's all really interesting. So we hope that's enough scenarios to give you a flavour, and that maybe your client work is resonating in there. We've already done quite a lot of the sort of lower questions here, but I do think it is quite interesting about how much work there is in the programme. Andrew, do you want to say that, what your experience was?
Yes, there was probably 1 week where it felt quite a lot of work, you know, that was just before handing in the final assignment. But apart from that, throughout the entire program, I actually found it really quite difficult to put a number on this, because it's, you know, if you're already this far and are looking at this video, then you have already engaged with resilience, and it's something you cannot just lightly engage with. You'll end up buying books, reading stuff on the internet. It becomes a little bit of a, it doesn't feel compulsory. It's like a passion, you know, you're there really immersing yourself in the topic. And that's what I found myself doing, calling some of my peer colleagues, being involved in the supervision sessions and so on. I mean, I think it never felt overwhelming. It never felt too much. So it was definitely manageable. I think it should be. I don't know. I actually wasn't concentrating when I began, so I wasn't even sure what the number should be. If it was like an hour a week or something like that, but it was definitely manageable.
Yeah, and I think we're estimating about an hour a week, you know, in that sort of reading and practice and reflective sort of practice around the client work, etc. So we would average it out roughly about an hour a week. But actually, you know, that's the real answer. you know, it's kind of it's very self-oriented. It's very much up to you. There's a minimum you're required to do, and then you come back to the assessment, which is one of these questions here. We go through that in module 3. There are 9 criteria that you are assessed on. You are really learning that. You're self-assessing as you go. There are different passes. You know, you can pass the theory but not the practice necessarily, and actually many of our practitioners are in that situation at the moment because of the pandemic. Lots of people didn't manage to actually, you know, do so much, or they've maybe managed to work with 1 or 2 types of clients but not everybody. So, you know, and the door is open, right? We don't kind of go, oh no, you haven't done enough, all right? So if you've got a bit more to do, that's fine, and we'll support you in that. Yeah, and sometimes there there's individual things that happen to people, right? You know, stuff happens in life, and again, we'll support an open door to continuing within it, you know, according to your own personal circumstances. So we do encourage everybody, you know, and we've got a very successful sort of overall rate there. There's almost 100 members in the community, and that is growing. So I think we've kind of done it, guys. I think we've answered all the questions. We've had a little bit more time in the video, so we hope that that's been useful for you. It's been a great pleasure to receive these questions. We know that it's really real for you coming into this. So anyone who is considering their own accreditation, whether it's ICF or EMCC or AC, whether you're thinking about reaccreditation, you know, and your credentialing, or whether you're an HR and OD person and considering kind of, you know, how does this actually match? It's been absolutely fantastic to have Andrew in there, you know, who is an internal practitioner and can really, you know, give you the real story. So it's just beholden on us to say, you know, it's been our great pleasure. If you have further questions and you want to actually get the application form, etc., obviously the details are on the website, and Mandy Golly, whose details are up on the screen now, can answer your questions. And maybe we will see you in February 2021. So very best wishes, and do get in touch. So thank you from me.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. I look forward to seeing anybody who wants to come along is very welcome. I look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye. Good luck.
Yes, that's great. So thanks, everybody, and do get in touch. Okay, cheers for now.